Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Board Game Brunch, my monthly live Q&A here on the Dice Tower. Usually, this stream is the last Sunday of every month, but this month we're doing it a week early because next Sunday I will be on the Dice Tower cruise, hopefully with some of you. I'm really excited about the cruise, but I didn't want to miss my Q&A this month, so I decided to move it up a week so I could still hang out with all of you here on YouTube. If you are in the chat, oh good, there's some people already saying stuff in the chat, so perfect. Please let me know if the video and audio are okay. I know sometimes when I stream through OBS, the video is a little bit blurry because I don't know why. My webcam is 1080p, but for whatever reason, the video quality isn't quite as good. But hopefully you all can hear me well enough. Yeah, it's an exciting week. I'll admit this morning I'm not feeling super great. I woke up with a migraine, which I'm still trying to get rid of. But the Chiefs are in the playoffs, wearing my Chiefs jersey. It's not a current jersey, but that's okay. Okay, good. Audio and video are good. Perfect. Yeah, the Chiefs are playing today. The cruise is this week. Star Trek Picard starts on Thursday. Just lots of exciting things happening in the world of Crystal right now. I know that not all of that applies to all of you, but good evening, David. I'm glad that you're joining us from overseas, because obviously if it's evening there, that's the case. It is still early for me. 9:30 doesn't feel that early, I guess. I usually wake up closer to 7 or 8, but when you have a migraine, 9:30 a.m. seems kind of early. So if you all have any questions for me, please feel free to drop them in the chat at any point, and those can be anything about board games, Star Trek, anything typically, yeah, just whatever you want to drop in the chat. I wanted to follow up a few episodes ago during Dice Tower Tonight. I think I showed off that I had just gotten the Wingspan expansion in the mail, and I'm pretty sure I never actually talked about it after I played it. So I wanted to follow up in case anyone was curious about the expansion for Wingspan, which right now Stonemaier Games has kind of pre-announced their next expansion for Wingspan, and they were doing a thing where if you signed up for the mailing list, they would donate money to the bushfires down in Australia. So I don't know if they're still doing that, if that's still going on, but if they are, you should most definitely sign up for that. So the European expansion, this one, came with a few different things. It came with a bunch of new birds, some of which had end of round goals. And then some new stuff for the solo mode, new eggs, basically new tokens and eggs for everything else, just so you'd make sure you had enough of everything. Some new goal tiles. And yeah, so this is one of those expansions that I tend to really like in board games because there are minimal new rules to learn, and it just adds more of all of the things that you already liked about the base game. So this is a really easy expansion to add in. If you own Wingspan and you like Wingspan, it's easy to add this one in and never take it back out. Those are the types of expansions that I tend to enjoy the most, I have found, because if I have to take components back out to teach the game to new players, then I tend to be kind of frustrated with it. Even if I like what a new expansion adds, if it's not easy to teach right off the get-go, I find that I don't end up using the expansion contents as much. I think a good example of that would be Steam Park from Yellow Games. I love Steam Park, and I like all of the things that the expansion, the Play Dirty expansion added, but Steam Park is already a game that's a little bit difficult to teach, and when you add in the expansion stuff, it's more. So I have found, for me personally, once I buy and add in an expansion to a game like Steam Park, I play the game less in total as a result of having bought the expansion, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it does. It's so interesting. I just I don't know what it is for me, but if things aren't simple, quick, and easy to teach, or if I feel kind of some stress or anxiety around teaching a thing, then I just tend to avoid it and I'll pick something that's easier. But honestly, the reason Steam Park is on my brain is because somebody in the Facebook group for the Dice Tower Cruise said that they were interested in learning it. And so I said if the representative from Yellow brought Steam Park on the ship, that I would be happy to teach it. So I have it on the brain right now because I am actually really excited because I realized I haven't played Steam Park in quite some time and I really think it's neat. When Steam Park came out, I feel like it got a decent amount of buzz, and then it kind of just fell off everyone's radars. I actually made a joke at one point when Westworld, the HBO show, started. I was like, I feel like you could retheme Steam Park to be Westworld themed because it's robots and an amusement park. So that was a funny joke. Oh yeah, Nathan Sampson said something similar. Steam Park was great, but I feel like it's almost forgotten already. The hotness cycle goes faster and faster every year. That's kind of true. And I wonder, yeah, like I'm not one of those people who wants to, say that I don't want lots of new games coming out because I am excited by all of the new games that are coming out. But there are times where I'm like, oh yeah, there's that game that I love that I haven't played in a long time because I've been too busy playing all the new stuff. And I like the new stuff. It's not like I'm mad about that, but it is what it is. Joe asked, does the expansion make the game longer? So for Wingspan, no. The expansion does not add any length to the game. I mean, unless you count, so when there are birds that have end of round bonuses, when you get to the end of a round, those bird powers go off, but they're very, very quick. So it doesn't really add any time at all. It just adds a lot of new birds. And so something that my group did when we first played with it, which probably isn't the smartest plan, we wanted to see a lot of the new birds coming in. So we, and so for those of you who aren't aware, in Wingspan, the birds that have end of game bonuses associated with collecting specific types of birds or things like that, there are percentages listed on the card. So let's say a card says you need birds that have a color in their name. So like green, red, black, something like that. And the more of those you have, the better your end game bonus will be. Well, there's a percentage on the card itself that tells you how many birds in the deck in total have that requirement in them, which is really nice because when you're picking bonus cards, you can see, 30% of the cards have this one, but only 12% of the cards have this one. So you might pick the one that has more in it because it'll be theoretically easier to obtain. Well, when my group added in the new bird cards, and there were a lot of them, we wanted to see a bunch of the new birds. So we separated out the original deck of birds into two halves, and we put one half aside and then just mixed the new birds into the other half, shuffled that, and used that for our game. Because there's way more birds in the deck than you'll ever need in a single game. Which we all, in advance of playing, we recognized theoretically could have messed up those percentages that are so helpful. Because since we separated out the original deck at random, in theory, we could have removed all of the birds of a specific type or whatever. But we all agreed in advance that we were okay with that because it was all theoretically going to affect us at an equal rate, luck-based. So I would say you probably don't want to do that like we did. But it was neat to see a bunch of the new birds, and that's what I wanted to do, is get through a lot of those. So, earlier Timon asked orange eyelids? Yeah, it's kind of an orangish red. It looks more orange on camera for sure. So, it was an attempt to match the jersey. But it looks pretty orange on camera, I'll admit. Let's see here. David L., do you play many video games? It's something I've been getting back into of late with indie games, and I feel a lot of crossover with board gaming in terms of inventiveness. I don't know if I would say I play a lot of video games, but I play some video games regularly. The past 2 years, I have played more video games than in the past maybe decade or so. Ever since I got my Nintendo Switch. I love the Nintendo Switch. I'm trying to think, I think it's my favorite video game console of all time. And there have been a lot of video game consoles that I really liked, but for me as an adult, I have found that I tended to do less gaming because a lot of the gaming I've done as an adult prior to owning a Switch was PC based, so stuff on my computer. And once I got into fields of work where my job involved me sitting at a computer all day, I almost never want to come home and sit in front of my computer all evening because I've been already in front of a computer all day. But somehow sitting with a Nintendo Switch, either on my TV or handheld, isn't as bothersome. So I've been playing more video games as a result of having the Switch. I did that thing that Nintendo offered where they give you your stats for the year, and mine were lower than some people's for sure. But the Nintendo Switch has been a godsend for like traveling, being on an airplane, especially when I'm traveling by myself. There is nothing that is better for killing time than playing Zelda for a few hours on an airplane. Nintendo's been coming out with some really cool games, and there's been a lot of good indie titles as well, kind of as like you mentioned. My favorite indie game of last year, hands down, was Untitled Goose Game. Easily. Loved it so much. It was amazing. If you all don't know what Untitled Goose Game is, you should definitely look it up. It's available on multiple platforms, but obviously I played it on the Switch. You get to be a jerk goose and terrorize the inhabitants of a village. And it's funny because I don't usually like being a jerk in games. Like if I play a game like Fallout, for instance, I want to try and resolve things through conversation or without conflict and not just go in guns blazing and shoot everything up in a video game. But with Goose Game, it's fun to be a jerk because you're a goose. You're not a person. And I think it allows me to kind of distance myself from the being a jerk a little bit. But loved Goose Game. I was also really excited when they re-released Link's Awakening, the remastered edition for the Switch. Link's Awakening was one of my first favorite video games on the Game Boy way back in whatever year it was that it came out, 93, 94, something like that, I think. I specifically remember when I got Link's Awakening, and I believe it was the first Zelda game that I ever beat on my own. Like, no help from my dad or anybody else. And it's always been one of my favorite Zelda games, so the fact that they re-released it was really exciting. Now I just want to see a re-release of Wind Waker. They re-released it on the Wii U, which was the console right before the Switch, so I don't imagine it's high on their list of things to do, but I love Wind Waker quite a bit, and I played the remastered version on my Wii U, and really, really enjoyed that a lot. But yeah, video games are... I mean, I've been playing video games since I was very, very little, and I love them a lot. I think board games have taken up a lot of the time that video games used to take up for me, but I still do both. So, I'm gonna scroll up and see what I've missed. Okay, Friar Man asks, have you played the new Ascendency factions? What new factions would you like to see next? Miserians. I have not played the new Ascendency factions. So the Vulcan High Council and Andorians are finally released after so long. I will admit, I have kind of gotten angry with Gale Force 9 and their support of Star Trek Ascendancy. They really have not been supporting the game well, and their release schedule has been horrific. Because they'll announce a thing and then it'll take so long to get stuff out. Also, I went to purchase the expansions and they were $30 each. I mean, I have a little bit of money, but like, I've already sunk a lot of money into Star Trek Ascendancy and I'm very rarely playing it. So I didn't want to spend another $60 on the new factions. If worth $30, I don't know what all is in those boxes. I'm saying for me personally, in my current playing of Star Trek Ascendancy, the $60 isn't worth it right now because I don't really have anyone to play that game with. It is going to drop in my top 100 probably pretty significantly. I still love the gameplay, but it's really hard to continue to be in love with a game that is hard to get new content for and support and that other people don't want to play. I still love it. I do, but it's not going to be at the top of the list anymore. which kind of bums me out because it's, in my opinion, it is still the best thematic Star Trek board game. But yeah, it's just, I'm not as interested in it anymore as I was before, and I think Gale Force 9 is kind of to blame for that. So it's a bummer, but what can you do? Let's see here. Oh, and what if they were going to release any other factions for Ascendency, I don't know what I would want to see. I feel like at one point I had opinions on this, and it's been a little while. So I honestly don't know. I mean, if the Trill could be their own faction, but the Trill are part of the Federation, so that doesn't really work. But they, like, the Trill world doesn't feel like it gets touched as much. So that would be kind of neat. It seems like most of the factions they've been adding in, aside from the Vulcan High Council, have been mostly bad guys or people who are enemies of the Federation at some point during the show. So, yeah. Right there, Joe says, I was interested in Ascendancy until I found out it takes too long to play. It takes a long time to play, especially, like, for me, usually, if I'm playing with all new people, it takes me almost an hour to teach it, generally. And maybe that's just because I'm not good at teaching it, but it is a very long game. Depending on the number of players, you're expecting 4 or 5 hours, usually, with Ascendancy. So, yeah. Nathan says, clearly more games are released each year, but do you feel like there are a similar number of great games released each year with a lot of okay to good games filling the news cycle? Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, so you're saying more games are getting released, but the same number of, like, great games are coming out every year, and then there's just a lot more of the okay to good games. I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that. I think there's kind of more of everything, because it's really hard to say for sure, because who in this world is playing every board game that's coming out? Nobody. Like, even somebody like Tom Vassell, who's playing a lot more games than the average person, hasn't played a bunch of the games that came out in 2019 or 2018 or 2017, because there are just so many. It's an interesting thing, because I do think that having more games, especially more different types of games, will help strengthen the variety and diversity that exists in gaming, which could bring more people in, because if there's more options, then obviously it's easier for people to find something that they like. I don't know. The whole, is it too much, is it not enough discussion is something that's hard for me, because I really like the new stuff, and assuming that publishers are still able to make money off of releases, then I say put some more games out, do what you want. I think it will get, I don't think there's a bubble that's going to pop like some people have referenced before. Apologies, I've got something in my eye. I don't think there's this bubble that's going to burst in the board game industry necessarily, although we're kind of seeing that a little bit in some areas. Like, there have been some layoffs from some larger companies lately and things like that. But I don't know. I'm definitely not privy to any of the insider information about the industry, so I'm not probably the right person to ask. Everything that I'm telling you is just my personal opinion based on very little information. So we'll just move past that. Joe says, and also the goose isn't packing. I can't remember. I know I was talking about the goose being a jerk, but I don't know what you meant by that. David says, Untitled Goose Game is so much fun. I've considered the Switch so many times, but having a PS4, I can't justify it to play Zelda. Slay the Spire is my current addiction. I've heard a lot of good things about Slay the Spire. I have never played it, though. So it's one that it's kind of on my short list that I might get for the Switch at some point. Nathan says, I've been a video gamer since Atari 2600. I agree. Switch is great, and Breath of the Wild was my favorite game of all time, full stop. It is, yeah, Breath of the Wild. I know that there were some people who didn't like it, but I adore Breath of the Wild. It is my favorite Zelda game, easily. So for Zelda games for me, Breath of the Wild is number 1. And then Wind Waker is number 2. And then kind of tied for number 3 is Link to the Past, the SNES game, and Link's Awakening, which was on Game Boy and now is on Switch as well. Those are my top 4 Zelda games. I love Zelda games. Although, admittedly, there are a couple that I haven't ever played. What was the follow-up to Ocarina of Time? Twilight Princess? Is that what it's called? I've never actually played that one. Probably because they've never re-released it. But that one I've never played. And then some of the more obscure Zelda titles I've never played. Like there's CD-ROM Zelda games and Spirit Tracks I've never played. So there are Zelda games that I haven't played. Of the major releases, I've played most of them, though. Let's see here. James says, you ever play Star Trek Fleet Captains? I've played it once. Excuse me. Yeah, I've played Fleet Captains once, and it was very fun. But I haven't played it again because I don't own it and don't have easy access to it. So, Joe says, Vulcans and Andorians are part of the Federation too. Trill could be their own faction. Yeah, that's true. Which is interesting that they just now released the Vulcans and Andorians. So maybe they did want to dip more into groups that are part of the Federation. But it would be weird. Like, I'm curious how, because I haven't looked at the Vulcan and Andorian stuff, but like Vulcans, if you're playing the Vulcans against the Federation, how does combat go there? Like, that doesn't feel normal or natural in my head, but maybe it makes sense. I don't know. James asks, how excited are you for Picard? I cannot quantify how excited I am. I can't. It's just not possible. And I'm going to end up watching it, the first episode, on my phone because it comes out Thursday night, and I will already be in Florida because the Dice Tower cruise leaves Friday, not morning. I have to get on the ship in the morning. But yeah, the first episode premieres Thursday night, so I won't be at home. So I will be watching it probably on my phone, which is, I'm sure, not the best way to experience that first episode, but I'm not waiting a week to watch it. So I can't. I've been keeping up with all of the like little teaser clips they've been releasing, and they just did the premieres in LA and London respectively. And at the LA premiere, they got to see 3 episodes, which is crazy. And no one was able to talk specifically about anything they saw there, obviously. But the opinions coming out of the premiere were universally positive. And then, yeah, in London at that premiere, they only got to see 1 episode, so they saw less over there. But it seems like everyone who did get to see some of the content is really excited about it, and I cannot wait. I'm just so excited. It's going to be wonderful. And if you are somebody who's going to watch Star Trek Picard and you do not have CBS All Access yet, you should get it now because they've been doing, in between seasons of Star Trek Discovery, they do these little short treks. And the most recent one, which came out a couple of weeks ago, was actually a lead-in to Picard. It was short, only like 8 minutes long, and it only gives you a teeny snippet of something, but it is connected to Picard. So if you haven't watched that yet, it's called Children of Mars, and it's listed in CBS All Access's app as a separate thing. Like there's Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard. Short treks are listed as their own show, which is weird, and for whatever reason, the app is not good at suggesting them to me. I have to dig for them usually, but let's see here. Scrolling back up. Steve Gray says, hi from the UK. Are you a Pandemic Legacy fan, and are you looking forward to Pandemic Legacy Season 3 in 2020? I am a Pandemic Legacy fan. I've played Season 1 and Season 2, and I'm very much looking forward to Season 3. I'm excited to see what they do differently this time around, especially because of how different Season 1 and Season 2 were. I won't be spoiling anything in case anybody hasn't played them and is worried. So I played Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Gosh, that was 4 years ago now? That seems... Wow, I can't believe that was 4 years ago. Yeah, because it came out in 2015. And we played it just a month or 2 after it released. And I played that with 3 of my friends from my weekly board game group. And then Pandemic Legacy Season 2, which came out a couple of years ago, I played with my husband. So we played that one 2-player, and that one was really interesting. And yeah, I don't know who or when I will be playing season 3 whenever it comes out, but I'm excited about it. There are other Legacy games that I haven't gotten to play yet. Clank Legacy from this past year, most notably, is the one that I'm really excited to try at some point, but I haven't gotten to yet. Let's see here. James says, Tom and Steph Hodge play a ton in a year and don't even get close to 10 or maybe even 5%. Yeah, there's a lot of games coming out, and not everybody's going to get to try all of them, and that's just the way it's going to be. James asks, have you played any historic or war games? I don't think so. It is not a genre that I tend to gravitate toward. I'm not necessarily against it, but I tend to like my board game experiences to be generally a little bit more lighthearted, or based in not the real world most of the time, which obviously there's exceptions to that. Darlene says, I just got a quiver and was wondering what you keep in yours. Oh, I wish I had it nearby. It is in my car, actually, so it would take me too long to go get it. I keep a bunch of things in my quiver. I actually have 2 now. I have the regular quiver and I have the quiver bolt, which is the smaller of the 2. And I have games in both of them right now. I'm not sure which one I'm taking on the cruise. Maybe the smaller one, only because the big one, when I fill it up completely, it weighs like 8 or 9 pounds, and that is a lot of weight to put in my suitcase when you all have a 50-pound weight limit. So some of the games that I tend to always have in my quiver are things like No Thanks, Hanami Koji, Sprawlopolis. I usually have Illusion from Wolfgang Warsch in there. I usually have, try to think, because there's some that I switch in and out. Circle the Wagons I have in there usually. High Society I usually have in there. What else are my staples? There's a few others, but for the most part, I switched other stuff in and out. Right now, things in there, I actually have Letter Jam in my quiver, which doesn't feel like I didn't think it was going to fit, but it actually wasn't too hard to get in there, even though it's got some weirdly shaped components, the little stands, and the poker chips. So I've got Letter Jam in there. Nokosu Dice, which is from Big Cat Games. It's a trick-taking game that just came out recently. That I really love. So I have that in there. That involves a bunch of dice, even though it's a trick-taking game. So that one is a little bit difficult to get in there. I have Just One in there as well. Sometimes I bring the player boards in the quiver and sometimes I don't. If I don't bring the player boards in the quiver, what I do is I have some roll and write games that I've laminated player sheets for. And also I always have those usually in the pocket of my quiver. And I will use the backs of those, so it's just a white back usually, unless the boards are double-sided, as the player boards for Just One, if I have Just One in my quiver, but I don't have room for the plastic stands. Obviously, it's a little less fancy looking than when you have the player stands that you can write on, but I think it works really well. So if you need more space, that's a good way to get Just One in there. James asks if I play any board game variants on the Switch. What's funny, the answer to this prior to 2 weeks ago was no. And I just actually downloaded Flip Over Frog on the Switch, which Hub Games publishes. And I don't think they were the original publisher. I believe they brought it over from a different publisher overseas. I've never played the physical board game of Flip Over Frog, but I've played the version on the Switch a bunch now, and it is so fun. I love Flip Over Frog. It's an abstract game, basically, but it's really, really enjoyable. I would highly recommend it. And I believe the regular board game plays just like it does on the Switch, so I would recommend either version of it to anyone. I think it's really, really neat. It's hard to describe in an audio fashion, but if you look it up, it's pretty easy. And the tutorial was nice for that one too, if I remember correctly. Let's see here. David L. Slay the Spire is a deck building game. It's just a good way to get that fix without investing heavily with time or money. That's always a plus. If you can get that, scratch that deck building itch without having to get into an LCG or a CCG. James says, I'm over the moon for Picard. Joe says, I'll be starting it on my phone too while I'm away from home. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of us, I think, watching Picard wherever we are, no matter what. I'm bummed, though, because there's a group of friends here in Vegas that I have that are all big Trekkies, and they're all going to get together to watch the premiere, and they're making pasta and, like, having a big party, and I really wish I could be there with them. I'm really bummed that I'm going to miss that. I mean, obviously, I'm excited that I'm going on the cruise, but I wanted to hang out with my local Star Trek friends, and it's going to be a bummer that I don't get to do that. James asks if I've been watching the new season of Doctor Who. I haven't been. I need to catch up. I'm behind. I really love Jodie Whittaker, and I need to catch up on Doctor Who, and I'm not caught up at all. Charles asks if Jamal Charles is my favorite player, if I have a different favorite player for the Chiefs. Jamal Charles, I don't really have a favorite player. I guess he used to be somebody that I liked quite a bit. I've had this jersey for a while now, obviously. But right now, I don't know if I have a favorite player. I'm just excited that the Chiefs don't suck. Because that's what they are typically doing this time of year, is, out of it already. And we're doing really great, and the Patriots are not even in the playoffs, which is awesome. So, and I am kind of excited that the Raiders are moving to Las Vegas this year. Not because I like the Raiders, I hate them a lot because I'm a Chiefs fan, obviously. But since the Raiders will be here, that means the Chiefs will come to town, and I will get to go to Chiefs games here in Las Vegas, which is pretty exciting. And the stadium that they've been building here for the Raiders is huge and gorgeous, and I'm excited to see it when it's all done. They're getting close. Every time I drive by, it feels like they've done a lot more work. So even though I don't like the Raiders, and I'm not going to be a Raiders fan, I'm still excited that they're coming to town because I'll get to see the Chiefs. Let's see here. Trevin says Clank Legacy is amazing. That seems to be the universal opinion. Everybody seems to love it. So I'm excited to try it out at some point. And the kind of following up on that, Steve says, have you played Clank Legacy, and do you agree with Tom Vassell that it's the best Legacy game yet released? Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but a lot of people are saying it is their favorite Legacy game so far. The only Legacy games that I've played are Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and Season 2. I have not played any of the other... Oh, no, sorry. I've played half of Betrayal Legacy. We haven't finished that yet. One of our friends had to drop out of our regular group, and we actually, last night, just got back together, and we're moving on without him since he can't play with us anymore. So we are... I want to say we finished Chapter 9 last night? It was either Chapter 8 or Chapter 9 that we finished. So we have either 4 or 5 games of that left. And I'm really enjoying Betrayal Legacy. I know it came out a couple of years ago, and I'm behind on that one. But if you like Betrayal at House on the Hill, the original game, I would, at least from where I'm at so far, I would say you definitely want to play Betrayal Legacy. It's a lot of fun. Oh, glad that James agrees with some of the games I have in my quiver. Illusion, No Thanks, and Sprawlopolis. David says, I'm looking at cheap small games currently. Misty and Bandito seem like they are pretty overlooked small box games. Do you have any underrated or overlooked small games you like to recommend? Ooh, that's a good question. I think whenever anyone asks me for underrated games, my first go-to is always Medieval Academy, but that's not really a small box game, only because the boards are about like, I guess you can't really see, like this. And there's a bunch of them. There's like 6 different boards, and they're all hard cardboard and about that size. So I don't think I could fit it in a quiver. So that to me, maybe it's not a small box game. But as far as underrated games go, Medieval Academy is always on my list. Yeah, most of the underrated, Order of the Gilded Compass is another one of my favorite underrated games, but also wouldn't be considered a small box game at all. It has a lot of components because it has variable setup in the beginning. What you inevitably end up playing with is probably smaller, but some of those boards are pretty big in that one too. But yeah, so if you want underrated games, Medieval Academy, Order of the Gilded Compass would be 2, but those are not small box. I feel like most of the small box games that I play regularly are pretty well known. I don't think I've got much that people aren't aware of in like my quiver, for instance. Games of Fire says, I really enjoy the 2-player card game Tessin. Cool. I've never played that one, so I don't know much about it. Joe says, your friends are going to drink Earl Grey without you. Probably. And then Joe also says, I really want to play Betrayal Legacy. Yeah, Betrayal Legacy is a lot of fun. And obviously I don't want to spoil any of it for anybody, but I will say it does some pretty cool things that have surprised us. Which is honestly what I think the best parts of a Legacy game are those surprising moments that you're just like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen, or I don't understand. Yeah. James says, I have all of Crystal's underrated games and agree they are good. Awesome. Yeah, some of those things fly under people's radar, and I like shouting out games that aren't getting a lot of buzz, especially if they're a little bit older. Friarman says, if the Dice Tower crew were to do a fan Star Trek movie, who would play Picard, Worf, Riker, Beverly Crusher, a red shirt? Let's see. I mean, Tom would have to be Picard because he's in charge. Z would probably be Worf. I think Eric would be Riker. Jason would be a red shirt. Just because that's an easy joke to make. Or Jason would like maybe, well, no, that wouldn't make sense. I'd like to think that I would be Data or Geordi. Like, I think I'm Data. Who would Geordi be? I think Mandy would be Geordi. Or maybe Suze. Because I'm trying to think like, oh wait, like super intelligent. Like Mandy's super smart, like Geordi. So I feel like she would be, I don't know. Nathan says, bring back Sam to be Worf. Yeah, I don't know. But that's just the next generation cast. If we were going to be in a Star Trek movie, we'd be our own cast. We wouldn't be the same characters probably. Steve says, I've played Mansions of Madness 2nd edition and now need to decide whether to get Arkham Horror or Eldritch Horror. Which one should I go for? That's a really good question. So I own Mansions of Madness 2nd edition and love it. And I have played Eldritch Horror, but I've never played Arkham Horror, either the older versions or the newer edition. Mansions of Madness is quicker and more streamlined than either of the other two games. I know that before the new edition of Arkham Horror, most people that I know suggested Eldritch Horror over Arkham Horror. But since the new version of Arkham came out, I don't actually know if that's still the case. So I'm really not a good person to ask, unfortunately, because I don't have enough experience with those two games to give you a solid recommendation. So Games of Fire clarified that Tessin is a fast game like Speed. You collect sets of animals and play samurai. Interesting. Nathan says, I recently picked up a copy of Mythos Tales. Any opinions on that versus Sherlock Holmes? Have both, played neither, but I want to dig into one soon. So let me preface what I'm about to say with the version of Mythos Tales that I played was the Kickstarter edition, not the published version that Grey Fox Games put out later. I love Grey Fox Games a lot. They sponsor my podcast, Board Game Blitz, and I almost universally like just about everything they publish. That being said, and I don't know what their version of Mythos Tales is like at all. So if you have the published version from Grey Fox, what I'm about to say may not apply. But I played the Kickstarter edition of Mythos Tales and hated it. A lot. Really, really did not enjoy it. Their Kickstarter campaign, there were tons of mistakes in the game. Like so many of which were game breaking, game ruining. And my friend Kathy, God bless her, she went through the errata that had been posted online and put like sticky notes and changed text and did a whole bunch of things to try and get our game up to a playable version. And even after she did that, there were still more mistakes that the errata hadn't even caught at that point. And it was just so frustrating. We played with 4 people, I want to say, when we played through the entire campaign, and it just was not enjoyable for me. I've never played Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, though, so maybe that style of game is just not for me. And again, I believe the published version of Mythos Tales does not have all of those mistakes in it. I believe that they fixed a lot of that, if not all of it. So I hope that you like whichever one you decide to play. But I was incredibly disappointed with Mythos Tales. It says 8th Summit on the box. I don't know if that was the Kickstarter publisher or not. But what I will say is if you do decide to play it, look up the errata online, because there are mistakes in every component of that game if you have the Kickstarter edition. In the book, on the map, like there are literally like locations on the map that are wrong. There are character names in descriptions in the book that are wrong. There's so much stuff that's wrong. I will admit, like, I totally get missing an occasional typo, or, you change an aspect of a game and forget to update the wording in a certain place. But there were so many mistakes in that game. I think the first scenario was the only one that felt pretty polished, and everything else was kind of a hot mess. So, kind of a bummer. But we played through the whole thing because my friend really wanted to. So, I would have stopped earlier than that otherwise. Let's see. Oh, Kenny would be Jordy. Yeah, that's probably true. That's a good call. Let's see here. James says, was thinking Jason for Data because he's always winning. Yeah, but Data is more lighthearted and fun. Well, no, Jason's lighthearted too. Like yeah, I can see that. All right, let's see here. Okay, looks like we've kind of run out of questions. So I'm going to give you all a couple more minutes if there's anything else you want to ask me. Since I am dealing with a migraine, I would not mind ending this a little bit early, theoretically. But just in case you guys haven't done it yet, please, on the video there on YouTube, if you could right below the video, click the little thumbs up button if you enjoy my live streams, because it helps with the YouTube algorithms and it makes me happy. So I would really appreciate if you could do that. Steve says, do you have a full-time games room in your house that is used exclusively for gaming? Yes and no is the answer to that right now. This past summer, my husband and I renovated the lower floor of our house, and we kind of rearranged some things and bought some new furniture. And then I, a couple months ago, moved all of my board games into our loft on the second floor of our house, so I could go through them and get rid of some of them, and I have not done that yet. I just have a loft full of board games right now. But yeah, my loft is a mess, and I have not kind of figured out where all of my board games are going to live yet, but we have a pretty big house, so I'm not sure if they're going to have their own room or if they're going to be part of one of the larger rooms. It's really, we don't know yet, is kind of the answer to that, and it's been months, and I still haven't gotten everything sorted out. So I'll get there eventually, hopefully. Battlecry asks, did you back Return to Dark Tower? And the answer to that is yes. I love playing Return to Dark Tower at PAX Unplugged. So I have a pretty unique opinion on it, because I got to play Return to Dark Tower in July at Dice Tower Con down in Florida, back when the physical tower itself wasn't even there yet. It was all being controlled by an app. It was like being simulated by an app instead. And then I got to play it at PAX Unplugged in December, at the beginning of December, with the tower. And I really, really, really loved it a lot. If you like fantasy adventure style games, and you like co-ops, and you like really cool mechanical things, I love it so much. I'm really excited to get my own copy of Dark Tower. And I'm really happy for Restoration Games that their Kickstarter is going so well, because I know that they put a lot of work and their hearts and their souls into this game over the past couple of years. So I'm really, really excited to get my own copy. Let's see here. Oh, Sorrow Song asks, is the next Apptastic game chosen yet? I don't know. You would have to ask Mandy and Suzanne. I don't know if they've picked their next one. But hopefully, let's see, that would be next. So not this coming Wednesday, but next Wednesday is the next Apptastic show. But yeah, I don't know if that stream has been scheduled on the channel yet or not, so I can't go look right now anyway. Kathleen says, what are you hoping to play on the cruise? That is a really good question. I actually right now have a list of games that were released in 2019 that I haven't played yet. So it's kind of like a starting point. Obviously, there are games that are not from 2019 that I haven't played also, but from 2019 specifically, the games that I haven't played that I would be interested in playing on the cruise are, and these are kind of in order, but not really, a little bit. Horrified, the Top Gun strategy game, The Crew, Stay Cool, Time Chase, Azul Summer Pavilion, The Isle of Cats, The Mind Extreme, Miyabi, Paladins of the West Kingdom, Star Wars Outer Rim, Mega City Oceania, and Comanauts. And I do not know if all of those are in the library, but I know a bunch of them are. So those are games from 2019 that I have not played yet, that I am hoping I might get to play a couple of on the cruise. I know that playing all of them is definitely not going to happen, but I feel like a few of them possible. Joe says solidarity for the migraine, right there with you. Yeah, I will not lie. These lights, the studio lights that I have pointing at me right now are literally the worst, but I know that this is short, and then I will get to climb back into bed after I get done with the stream. Sorrow Song asks, thoughts on the new Rococo release? I have no thoughts because I don't know anything about it. So unfortunately, I can't share any thoughts with you. I haven't seen it. James says, I backed Warp's Edge, but I'm not backing Dark Tower. Dark Tower looks neat, but I do not know anyone who I would play with in my area and gaming circle. That's completely legitimate. And I do recognize that obviously the cost of Dark Tower is prohibitive for certain people. And I get it. If you can't afford or don't want to buy it, that's totally fine. I get it. It's a lot of money for a board game. So Joe says, I liked the original Dark Tower as a kid. I never played the original. I had heard about it, but I'd never gotten to play it, and I still haven't. If somebody I knew owned a copy, I would totally be willing to play it, but I don't think I know anyone who has it. So let's see here. Oh, you realize that I was the wrong person to ask about Apptastic. Yeah, probably. But hey, you know what? There's a chance I might have known, so it's not a bad idea to throw out questions. If I don't know the answer to something, I'll just say, I don't know. Okay, so Sorrow Song just got Isle of Cats. OMG, that draw bag is so full with the expansion and Kickstarter stuff. Ooh, I bet. Isle of Cats is very pretty. Also, a friend of mine brought it to game night on Thursday. I didn't get to play because I had to leave, but I did take a picture of the inside of the box lid because it made me laugh so much. So you guys won't be able to read it, but I'll show you. So I took a picture of the inside of the box lid. You can see there's like a target symbol in there, right? So in the inside of that target, it says cat setup. If you have a pet cat, you should place it here while playing the Isle of Cats. And I know I've seen so many pictures of people who open their board games and set down the box lid and the cats just jump into them. So I thought that was really clever and cute of them to do. I don't have a cat because I'm super allergic to cats, but I thought that was a cute idea. Sorrow Song hasn't played it yet, but it looks so cute and easy to learn. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in trying it. So it looks like I'm out of questions. You did do the required pick with your cats. That is always good. I should borrow the box and put my smallest dog in it and take a picture. I feel like that would be a fun post to put on social media. Managed to get 3 around and in it. Nice. That's awesome. All right, well, my time is running out here and I'm running out of questions as well, so I'm probably going to end the stream. But the Dice Tower Cruise is this week, so if any of you watching this, either live or after the fact, are going to be on the Dice Tower Cruise, please, please, please come up and introduce yourself to me. I love to meet fans of the Dice Tower, and I'm really excited about the cruise. My husband is not coming with me this time, so I'm going to be playing with, I mean, I was playing with lots of different people last year, but even more so this year, because I won't have him tagging along with me. And I'm really excited to play games with a bunch of people on the ship, and just enjoy myself. So I hope you all are having a really, really wonderful January. And as always, my live Q&A is usually the last Sunday of every month. This month was a little bit unique, did it a week early, but my next Q&A specifically will be February 23rd. And that will be the week before Dice Tower West starts. If you all don't know, Dice Tower West is the Dice Tower convention that happens here in Las Vegas, where I live. I am one of the people that is on the team for Dice Tower West. And while badge sales have ended, then we do have a Facebook group where people are transferring badges. So if you want to come to Dice Tower West in Las Vegas and don't have a badge yet, it is still possible to do so. I will actually drop a link to the Facebook group in the chat here in just a second once I can pull it up. So that way, if you do want to join our Facebook group, you can do that. I'm going to pull that link for you all really quick. See if I can copy the link. I don't know how to do it from there. It's funny, I know how to do it from my phone, but when I go into the Facebook browser window, I don't know how to find the link. I think if I just copy and paste this, it will work. I guess we'll find out, won't we? So I'm gonna drop that in the chat for you all. So if you are interested in joining the Dice Tower West Facebook group, that would be the way to do it. And yeah, so badge sales have ended, but you can still, there are people who are transferring badges, so you still can get a badge if you want. And that is, the con is in Las Vegas, February 26th through March 1st. It's 5 full days of open gaming, lots of fun, very exciting. Yeah, and then our next episode of Dice Tower tonight is this Wednesday, which is January 22nd. Eric and I will be going live and talking about lots of fun stuff and playing games with the chat. So if you want to do some more interactive things here on YouTube, that's the place to be. That is 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. So yeah, I see lots of people saying goodbye in the chat. Thank you all for joining me. I love hanging out with you all on Sunday mornings, and I hope you all have a really, really wonderful day. And I hope you Star Trek fans also enjoy the premiere of Picard this week. So until next time, everybody, have fun gaming. I'll see you on Wednesday.